Hi everyone, this is GREYMOND. We're going to be answering questions about OCD recovery, so let's get started. First question is, Ali, with all the clients you encounter, is there a common theme of something in their childhood upbringing that caused the OCD to come about? So, okay, there isn't really a common theme in terms of upbringing. I mean, over the course of 8 years, I've talked to all kinds of people from different walks of life with different situations. Some people have really bad childhoods, some people have perfect childhoods, and it really doesn't seem to matter. What does seem to matter is that every single person I've spoken to is very sensitive. They seem to be, anybody who I've talked with about childhood, they seem to be sensitive almost since birth. So ever since they were born, they react to things more, things trigger them more. So it's kind of like they don't have the main OCD thought that they're focused on, but they have all the makings of developing OCD in the future because of generally how their makeup is, how their inner self is, so to speak. They're generally prone to anxiety, and myself included in that. As a kid, I was always a much more sensitive kid. So that's something I see very, very much of. Like I said, it's pretty much, I would say, okay, like maybe you can't say 100%, but 99% of people I've spoken with are that kind of person. And the reason being is because if they were, say, a person that doesn't really care, then they wouldn't get OCD. They might get something else, but they wouldn't get OCD because their personality is not that compatible with getting OCD because they're not generally a super sensitive, super caring person. So that's kind of something I see very commonly. So next question is paranoia part of OCD? Yes, it is. It can be, because at the end of the day, if you think of paranoia, it's a what if, right? What if this, what if that? That's what most people kind of view as paranoia. So yeah. How do I stop anxiety? You have to refuse reaction. No matter how bad it feels, no matter how much anxiety you actually have, you have to refuse taking it seriously. And when you refuse taking anxiety seriously, it starts to go down, go down, go down until it goes away altogether. But you have to do the work, because every time you take it seriously, every time you try to figure things out, try to pay attention to what ifs and all of that, you're basically letting your anxiety grow as a process, because you're showing to your mind, again, let's go to the for the whole explanation here. The mind, that part of the mind that has OCD, that's kind of is the cause of OCD, so to speak, doesn't have an understanding which thoughts are valid and which are not by itself. It cannot tell the difference by itself and make a judgment call. It looks to you to make a judgment call. So if you make a judgment call that something is important to you, something is scary to you, you're reacting with fear, you're reacting with panic, doesn't matter what it is, your mind is going to send you more of it. Think about it like this way. If somebody hands you a black box and there's something in that box and you get scared, your mind, or somebody meaning your mind, is going to give you another black box that's just the same, but the mind itself has no idea what it's giving you. It's giving you a set of signals that you've reacted to in the past. So it's giving them to you again and again and again and again. And as long as you react, it's going to keep giving it to you. So it doesn't matter, age, how long you've had it. And the more you react, the more of the same thing you're going to get. So for your mind to stop, you have to stop reacting. No matter how much anxiety is coming in your mind, you have to stop reacting. So next question is, am I ever going to recover? And that's what it is. That's what recovery depends on, is the more you do the work, the more you push through, the faster you'll recover. But even if you're making any steps towards recovery, you will recover. It's just going to take a lot longer if you're making really tiny steps. If my OCD fears come true, how will I ever be able to live with my life? And again, this is how OCD gets you. But what if it comes true? That's like the hallmark of OCD. If you get this thought, well, what if You just have to disregard it, live parallel to it. Like I say in every show, what ifs are here, you are here. You're just going down the road of life. You're doing daily things. You're trying to pretend that OCD is not there. And it is there over here, but it is over here. It's parallel to you. Don't let it rule your life. And you will see, the less you pay attention to it being over here, the faster it's going to go away. But if you're powering it up every time, that part of the mind is only keeping the thoughts that are important, because it's creating what they call, I guess, a neural pathway between the fear and your thought. So there's actually a connection being made. So say, for example, you fear, I don't know, driving a car. Anytime you see like a car or anything to do with driving on TV, somebody talks about it, there's some accident on the news, it's going to trigger you because you've created that connection between fear and the car. And to make it go away, you have to show to your mind over and over again, exposing yourself to shows about cars, conversations about cars without reacting. So the fear will come in, but you have to say, I'm choosing not to react. It's my same theme again. I'm not dealing with this any longer. I'm not letting it take any more away from me. Because you have to put your foot down. If you keep doing this cycle of new thought, reassurance over and over and over again, it's never going to go away. You have to do the work. And this is what it comes down to in recovery. That's why my recovery program is so much more successful than what the doctors are offering, because of the text support and continuous support as the person is doing the work. It's there to help prop up the person as they are maybe having a hard day, to keep them going. But it does start and end with the person doing the work. You have to do it. Next question is, can you tell me what I can do if I'm scared of dying and going to hell? I am a Christian and do everything I can for God, but I can still have the constant fear of not going to heaven. What do I do about this? This is not something that someone needs to not be sure about. Other Christians have complete confidence that they will go to heaven, but I cannot seem to help it. Please help. Okay, this is an OCD situation. This is religious OCD. You have to stop analyzing this. Am I going to go to heaven? Am I not going to go to heaven? You're not focusing on this. The more you focus on this, the worse it's going to get. Believe it or not, this actually has zero to do with religion. It just attached to religion because religion is important to you. If something else was important to you, it would have attached to that. So this is not a religious issue. This is an OCD issue. You have to stop solving it. Any thought about, am I going to heaven or not, is off limits. You're not analyzing, you're not checking, you're not doing any of that. So next question is, do you have, and by the way, if you do want to do the program for religious OCD, I'd be more than willing to do that, because I have a lot of clients who have OCD about the religious theme, so it's something I talk about a lot. And actually, another note, that religious OCD affects any kind of faith, so it doesn't really matter what religion you are, it pretty much affects people equally. Next question is, do you have any experience treating generalized anxiety disorder? If so, how is it similar or and different from OCD? Are they related? And will OCD recovery techniques like ERP work for generalized anxiety disorder? Again, I am an expert in OCD, so I deal with people who have OCD. However, if you think of generalized anxiety, general anxiety, OCD is anxiety. It's just an extreme anxiety, but it's still an anxiety disorder. So in terms of helping you overcome it, it seems to me like you very likely could have OCD, since you're listening to the show and you're finding it relevant. Maybe there is more to it than just generalized anxiety, because we talk about very specific OCD themes, and if you're listening to it, it seems like maybe there is more to it than just generalized anxiety. And I've seen doctors diagnose people with pretty much anything under the sun, and 90% of the time it's just OCD, you know, but if not 100% of the, well, it's 100% of the time for me because I talk to people who have OCD, right? But I hear all kinds of stories. So if you are doubting, what if this, what if that, if it follows the same, you know, themes that we talk about on the show, and if you see yourself in the questions that I'm answering, then you might have at least a little bit of OCD. In terms of the recovery techniques, yes, they will work, because these techniques will work, and I can tell you that for sure. They will work for any type of anxiety. So even, you know, I can tell you that after, I can tell you personally, right? After I recovered from OCD, but I was still a very, very sensitive person. Not maybe very, very sensitive, but sensitive person. And things would get to me a lot. And I continued to do the work in terms of doing ERP. So exposure to conversations I didn't really want to have, or situations I didn't really like. And, you know, after a while, I was doing the same ERP techniques that you would do for OCD, but just for real life, you become bulletproof. Like that, seriously, bulletproof. So it's, yeah, it works. It works for real life. Just generally, you know, being an anxious person, it works. If any type of anxiety, it just gets, you know, it's exposure and response prevention. If you can expose yourself to situations that, you know, make you panic, you know, eventually they stop making you panic. Next question is, hi Ali, sorry, just trying to understand what the person is saying. The reassurance can feel very, very stressful. What can we do for strong urges? So for strong urges, I would say the best thing to do is just to stay busy. Not staying busy out of fear, like I'm so scared I have to do something, but more from the position of, you know what? This is my OCD thought. It's always been my OCD theme. I don't have to look any further into it. I don't have to try to figure it out. What I can do is refuse paying attention to it and focus on my real life, and actually give yourself a task. So your mind has something else to grab onto, something else to do, such as, okay, this is going parallel here, all these, you know, themes, whatever, and I am going to focus on this. So I'm going to focus on work, homework, schoolwork, you know, some sort of a task that I have to do, a chore, it doesn't matter, but I'm focusing on this, not on that. That doesn't mean that that went away. It's there. It's giving you anxiety, but you are here. Your attention is here. Your flow of energy is here. It's not going there. It's here. That's what you do. Next question, when I have an important event coming up, such as traveling to another country, anxiety and OCD usually get worse. That's very, very common, especially on the day of the event. Yes. I'm traveling this Saturday. What can I do to cope with this? The best thing you can do is to not try to make the situation, not seek perfection. You know what I mean? If you start to say, this has to be perfect, what if I get a thought? You're amping yourself up before even Saturday happens, right? Before you're even going. So instead, if you're saying, okay, you know what? It's going to be the best it's going to be. I will try to do my best. Will I get thoughts that day? Yes, I will. Will I get anxious that day? Yes, I will. Most likely, because you already know this. And this was the same for me as well, you know, when I had OCD. And for a lot of my clients. Some people, it depends though on the type of person. Some people will not have an anxiety spike before the event, but will have one after everything calms down. So it kind of depends on the individual. But for me, it was the same thing, that before any big event, I would get an OCD thought. So the best thing to do is not to allow yourself to get too worked up about the event itself. It's going to be what it's going to be. I'm going to get a thought, but I'm going to enjoy it as much as I possibly can enjoy it in the moment. You know, so that way you're calming yourself down, and again, focus on the task at hand. If you feel like it's getting, on the day of, that you feel like it's getting out of control, make a list for yourself. Okay, before I go, I have to do this, 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 and this. You know, or when I go, I need to, you know, make sure these things get done, you know? So you have a list and you're following that list. Everything that's going on here is just here. Again, you're focused. So next question. If you were to give a single tip or technique to help people progress in their recovery, what would it be? The single tip would be that you are not the only one going through it. And no matter how scary the thoughts are, you're not the only one. And if you're not the only one, that means it's not true for everybody. Because if millions of people around the world are thinking that they've killed somebody, or that they've done something bad, or having religious OCD, or, no matter what the topic is, and it's coming up with pretty much the same things. And I'm telling you, when I talk to people, it's very, very similar from all kinds of countries, anywhere around the world. People are speaking in the same way, talking about the same things, same fears. So it's not true. Don't believe the lie of OCD. Always bring yourself back to, this is not only happening to you. You're not alone, and that will give you strength to push through. But in terms of a practical thing, of course, it's going to be pushing through. No matter how hard it gets, like a tank, pushing through. So I guess that's 2 tips, technically speaking. As you said, you also had OCD. Just explain what type of OCD you had and how long it took to get recovery, and what are the things you did to get recovery from OCD. It would be more helpful for us to follow your opinion and get recovery. I think I've already mentioned it in another video in terms of the details, because I only have like 13 minutes left. Basically, I think I had OCD for most of my life, but it didn't really become bad until I was in my early 20s. And from there, because again, I've tried everything. That's why I know a lot about OCD, and then after that, helping people, right? Again, a lot of experience, but I myself personally experienced it. That's why I understand, because I have experienced it, in terms of trying medication, trying all kinds of vitamins, potions, anything, that could possibly work, all kinds of miracle treatments, everything under the sun, talking to psychologists, talking to psychiatrists, talk therapy, anything, and I can tell you all of it doesn't work. Only pushing through, only exposing yourself and not reacting. That's the only thing that works. In terms of how long I've had it, so basically in my 20s, and then, I would say that in terms of recovery, focused recovery, where I said, okay, enough is enough. I understand none of this is working. I'm just going to push through. From there, it took me a few months, maybe up to 6 months. But again, I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't have a plan. It was a trial and error. I knew that everything else didn't work, so I had no other choice. And then I was just done with it. And the push through, a few months, I would say. But up to that time of, times of going reassurance, was a few years. So that's kind of how it was. And it's also important to note that when I was actually doing that 6 months push through, I stopped medication before that, because I understood that, okay, you know what, I did a little bit of a trial run with it, but as I started to understand more and more that it wasn't working, I stopped it, and then after did a push through. So that just shows you you can do this. I hate when people are like, well, my doctor or my family member or my friend or whoever said that I can't recover. It's ridiculous. If you look under the videos, you will see people who are recovering. On my website, there's people in the testimonials who are recovering. And that's just the ones that, I put up, don't let anybody tell you that you cannot recover. Don't listen to them. You can recover, you will recover. I recovered. I'm not the strongest willed person in the world. Why can't you do it? It's just about pushing through and going forward. Next question. Oh, I think this is the last question. Yeah, I only have a few minutes left. Okay, this is kind of a reassurance question. Can OCD give you false, misleading account of past memories? OCD can do anything in terms of giving you a thought that's scary. It could be about, something, what if something happened in the past? It could take a memory and distort it into something completely different. It can take a future, a fear, and say, well, but what if, so don't believe it. It's all a lie. You have to push through. If it's about the past, false memory OCD, who cares? Future, who cares? It's still my same theme. I'm choosing not to react. And you have to stop seeking reassurance for this. Because the more you reassure yourself, the worse you're going to feel. Because you're going to start, but what if this, what if that, and then you start to get details of, okay, I got reassurance, but it's not quite right? So it just keeps going and going and going until you say, it's enough. I'm not dealing with this anymore. I'm not letting it take any more of my life away. And that's when you push through. And that's when you break through to the next level. It's just about pushing through, guys. If you would like to do the recovery program, I'm here for you. You can sign up on youhaveocd.com and I can help you push through. But it's, again, you have to push through. Sorry, I keep shaking the camera because I'm using my hands to talk a lot. But you do have to do it. I just feel strongly about it because it's like, when you have OCD and you're suffering, it's not only the person not suffering. It's that person and everybody else around them, So it doesn't need to happen. These are just silly thoughts that got stuck. It says nothing about you. You just have to show your mind that this doesn't matter for your mind to make this go away. Because your mind thinks it's important. So as long as you keep powering up, it's going to be there. Why are the thoughts still there? Because you're still powering it up. When are they going to go away? When you're going to stop powering them up. Not instantly, because there's now a backlog of you powering them up. But if you continuously refuse it, they will go away. So it's a simple method. The application is much more difficult, and that's why I do have the recovery program, because there is details for specific types of OCD. And also I get another question all the time where people are like, well, isn't all OCD the same, and shouldn't you not try to classify it into different themes, such as, this is the religious OCD, this is the harm OCD. Yes, it is all the same, but I think that it's very important for the person to know what is happening in their specific situation, in their specific type of OCD. Because a person who has religious OCD fears is not going to understand a person who has, say, cleaning OCD, unless they're experiencing it as well. But if they haven't experienced it, they're like, well, why are you washing your hands? And the person who's washing their hands be like, well, I wish I had this other OCD because that would be just so much easier. So it is different for everybody experiencing it. We can kind of understand the feelings and the misery of going through OCD, but in terms of specific thoughts, the person needs to know what to do in the specific situation, not in general. As a lot of the books, they describe OCD to the sufferer and then, in general terms, tell them what to do. You need to know specifically what to do for harm OCD, for religious OCD, for false memory OCD. It is the same thing, but the details change. So that, in case anybody was wondering, that is one. I guess that's it for the show today. I believe I've answered all the questions. If I haven't, please leave them below. I will answer in the next show. If you would like me to bring up a topic and talk more in depth about it, I would definitely love to hear what you have to say. Please, again, leave it below any of the videos. I will see it. I am going to do series on types of OCD in more details. I already have books on it, but I am planning to do series as soon as I basically get a chance. So thank you guys so much for watching. If you haven't subscribed to this channel, please subscribe. If you would like to know more details about the recovery program or anything else that I'm doing, please visit youhaveocd.com. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next video.